Recording. Okay, hello everybody, and I wanted to introduce you to my guest. This is Suzanne. And Suzanne, you have a phenomenal story, and I just wanted to bring awareness to human trafficking and that this is a real thing. It's a modern day slavery. And we all think it was abolished, but it wasn't. And so I wanted her to tell us her story. Um, First of all, Suzanne, thank you for coming and thank you for telling us about this. Could you describe the moments leading up to your kidnapping? Like, what were you doing and what were the initial signs that something was wrong?
Hi, I'm glad to
Okay.
be here. Well, that's the problem. There was no signs. The man who had trafficked me, he had groomed me online for like 15 years.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and I decided to start dating him. We dated for about 4 months before I realized, something wasn't right. Days would disappear, weeks would disappear. Before I knew it, I was in this RV where he had taken plywood and literally chained the door and had me drugged. I guess he would bring me a fountain drink, and claiming he enjoyed the same drinks as me. So at first it was no big deal for me to be drinking out of the cup from my boyfriend. I thought I could trust him, and well, it kind of went on from there. I would, I was literally chained up and held captive in that RV, and I would, there'd be like little peepholes, and I would be able to like see through the little peepholes, and there were men being carpooled to my location.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. So you were really trapped, you were really used, and they were making money off of you. Off of
Yeah.
your cap oh, God bless your heart. Wow, how did you manage to cope with the fear and uncertainty, during your captivity?
Well, like I said, a lot of the time I was in there, it was a lot of my memory was like in and out. You know, I not really sure how I really coped. I mean, I'm a really big music buff, so I probably just when I was forced to just lay there and I had no control over the fact that I was hungry, I was hot, um, I barely had any water. I had a little bit of access to the tap water. There was a little bit of a drip in there. Um, yeah, it's really hard to explain.
Well, did it basically feel like one big bad dream? You were just, like, waking up, falling asleep, waking up, falling asleep, and it never ended? There was just always it sounds terrible, I can't
Yeah,
believe it. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
it, it was. I mean, there was a lot of violent behavior. Like if I even tried to look out the window, or if my trafficker saw me trying to go by the front door, I would get thrown to the ground, and he would strangle me. I can remember I stood up at one point. I was like I was looking for my car keys, and I guess in the beginning I didn't realize exactly what was going on. And I remember he was like a 6 foot, 200-pound man. And I remember him putting his elbows down on my ribs. And he did not get off of me until he cracked each one of them. And I can hear my ribs popping.
Oh god.
Yeah. I guess that
Wow.
was a way for him to make sure I wasn't going to go anywhere.
Did you ever get those repaired? Like, did you
Well,
have
I
a
think I think that I mean I was held captive for a couple of months in that RV. I think the ribs they just kind of repair themselves. Now
right?
that was probably the worst pain I've ever been in my life, because you take a breath and it's excruciating. And he would come in there, he'd have a bottle of like Vitamins, and he would shake the bottle in my face and never even give me one.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it was,
Okay.
yeah, these people, they're uncouth. They love to taunt you. The taunting is probably worse than the attempts on my life. The taunting part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's mental torture. Now, the 15 years leading up to this, was he like planning things with you? Were you like thinking you're going to be living the dream, happily ever after? What was he telling you?
Well, he started messaging me like we were in our early 20s. Now, I was 38, 39 years old when I was held captive. That's another thing. People assume that every traffic victim has to be either a child or a young woman. That's not the case. Anybody, any age, race, or gender can be subject to trafficking. You
Wow.
know. Um, Now, he was just flirtatious. Nothing I was really interested in. He seemed kind of like a little bit of a wild boy in our 20s. So I kind of put him off for many years before I ever even met him. I figured, okay, we're in our 30s now. Maybe he's grown up a little bit. Maybe I'll you know entertain the idea of going out with him and see what would have happened. But
Wow,
it's
you had no indication that he was sick? I mean,
no.
this is sick. This is terrible.
I
You
know.
can't what he did is so criminal and it's almost ignored. It's like, "Oh, he was just no, he kidnapped somebody and he used you to profit." I mean, it was terrible. But
Well, I mean, come to find out, this man had been doing this for years. This man has had many victims, and I don't think a lot of them have lived to talk about it. And he's gotten away with it because, the night I escaped the RV, okay, the night I escaped, I saw the chain dangling on the door, and I was like, and it kind of felt like, I guess maybe whatever drugs he was giving me, I was developing a tolerance for it. So I decided to run. And I ran to the neighbor's house and I called the police. And, they were acting very strange, like asking me why am I even bothering my trafficker. None of it
oh,
made any sense. And that night, I ended up going to the hospital, and the local judge in East Montgomery County, Texas, put a mental warrant on me, so I never talk again. And that, to me, now that I look back on it, that was the worst mistake I made with calling the police. Even though we're brought up as children, as Americans, to think that the law enforcement are there to help, protect, and serve. Well, in my situation, that was not the case. And
wow.
the one thing Jan, the one thing I would like to um, put out there for anyone that's ever in my situation is, if you can help it, call multiple sources and call someone you trust to be a witness, because these people in higher power, the judges, the police officers that are protecting the human traffickers and protecting CPS and all of that trafficking with our children, um, they're all working together, and it's very dangerous, extremely dangerous to not have other people watching over you.
Right. Oh gosh, that's good. That's great. So get your story out, the same story multiple times. So no one can get you for lying or cheating or, oh, this is just a single incident. No, it's not. I'm really proud of you.
Mhm.
That's amazing. And In what ways did you try to communicate? Could you talk to them? I mean, because you're supposed to have this like relationship. Well, you thought it was your boyfriend, and it turned out weird. What did you say? What were you telling him? Were you like, "Honey, this is weird," or were you just in this like protective mode? All of a sudden, like, "Oh my god, this is bad. We don't talk. We don't." Were you just trying to get out? Is that what you were trying to do? Is just go the whole time, or what did you think? What did you do?
Well, I mean, at first I didn't know. I just thought, okay, maybe I'm just sick. Maybe I'm not feeling well. Um,
Oh,
I'm tired a lot. Um, but then, whenever drugs they were giving me, obviously it was erasing my memory. I guess like the date rape drugs. But I was starting to like have some kind of like little tiny flashbacks of little certain situations. And then I
yeah.
knew at that point, especially when he got physically abusive, I need to get out of there.
Right. Well, were there any pivotal moments or opportunities that presented themselves during your captivity where you were like, "Oh my gosh, I could hit him on the head right now with a rock," or "Well, I could take him right now," or was the whole time you were pretty much just under lock and key?
Oh, I was probably 140 pounds or 130 pounds when this happened to me when I was first held captive. I think I
Yeah.
got down to like 90 pounds. So I was very weak. I was
Uh,
extremely weak. And I was already having some muscle issues before my captivity. I think really, I just when I started dating him, I was at a point in my life where, I was just having, I was just having, it was a little bit more difficult for me, you know,
right.
um, and I have been alone for a long time, and well,
No, I
yeah,
do know you.
I didn't see the warning signs. I guess there wouldn't be any warning signs when you're being groomed. It's called grooming.
Right. Well, how much did he know about you that are things that you're like, how do you know this? Do you think he was stalking you the whole
Oh,
time?
I know for a little while, once I went through all of the trauma, that he was working with my mother's husband. That's the thing that gets really twisted and strange about this whole story. I can't honestly answer every question because there's a lot of things I don't know. But
Right,
I do know that my uncle, who was 82nd Airborne, who fought for our country, came back and died at 51 years old. 3 or 4 months later, my grandmother, who was leaving him about 3 point something million dollars, had passed away as well. And I kind of did a little detective work on my own. I've accumulated recordings, certain things that just put the pieces together for me. And I honestly believe that I was traded out into the sex trafficking ring to pay for my uncle and my grandmother's organized demise, their murder. Because my mother's husband, there's actually recordings on. I have a group called Modern Day Slavery. I created that group to create awareness. So other people are aware of what's going on and they know they're not alone. And especially if you're ever in my situation, you can learn about what to do or what not to do, to help save your life or prolong your life.
right.
Um, but my mother's husband, there's recordings of another man admitting he was offering rewards at a trafficking house to help poison me, to help get rid of me. There's been multiple attempts on my life, multiple.
My gosh, you really sustained a lot.
Yes,
Wow, no, I do remember hearing you say in another interview how music was so important to you, and that
yes,
is pretty much what carried you through. You always had That's awesome to always have something going on in your head that's different
yes.
from your situation. What kind of songs were you really replaying to get through everything? What were
So,
they?
so I
Yeah, what
mean, so many, so many. Um, there was a filter song, the group filter. It was called "Take My Picture," and
Okay.
I replayed that song in my head over and over again because the one thing that the one oh that just gave me a memory. The one thing that verified for me that hey, this is not right. Something's going on here. He had left the RV for a minute and left his phone. I
Oh,
picked
wow.
up the phone and I picked up the phone. I see a video of myself.
Oh,
I'm laying there. My eyes are like all the way rolled in the back of my head. I looked like I was dead. And I didn't see any faces, but there was a group of men surrounding me. I don't want to be too explicit, but it was only seconds when I saw this, and I did not remember being there, and I was not even there mentally. There's no way I was there. I mean, it
wow.
scared me. I thought I was dead. Um, he comes in, grabs the phone from me, claims I never saw nothing. So I was being recorded during my trafficking, and that's another thing I want people to be aware of. Everybody has their own thing. People who are watching porno, they don't know if what they're watching is someone who wanted to be there, that was a willing participant. You don't know. You don't know.
That's a really good point. Oh my gosh. Wow. So what was it like when you were finally um your first taste of freedom? I remember you saying that you heard the chain on the door was like dangling or something and you knew this was your chance. Is that can you go on after that? What
Yeah,
happened?
I mean, I thought I was probably free, but come to find out, I had a long road ahead of me. I had a
Oh,
long road ahead of me. Because well, like I said, my trafficker was being protected by higher power. I believe that allegedly my trafficker's husband is the constable out in East Montgomery County. I'm just saying allegedly. So my all of my reports to the local Houston FBI, to the local law enforcement, was all swept under the rug. Never got one phone call. Not one. Not one. And
wow.
it's been like 3 years now, and I it's hard for me to go get medical treatment because anytime I've ever gone to go get medical treatment, I'm usually a lot sicker when I leave, or something wasn't right. I had went to an emergency room in Lake Charles, Louisiana,
Right.
and the nurse came in and gave me a medication through the flesh, just through the IV, and my heart rate went from 70 to like 200,
Oh
and the nurse
god.
turned off the heart monitor and walked out of the room. She had her badge turned around. Now this has happened a couple of other times. Now people are probably wondering how do you survive that a couple of times? I went to God. I prayed to my Father. I went to God. I prayed for Him to give me the strength to yank that IV out and get out of there. You know, um,
That's awesome.
I'm just, what I survived is not something that these organized criminals want me to live to talk about. But you know what? I not only live to talk about it. They with all the attempts that they've made on my life, and I've lived through them. Hey, they snitched on themselves.
Good for you. Well,
uh,
are you okay?
no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm just saying that I lived long enough to tell my testimony, which I'm doing now, and my
Well, yeah.
testimony is going to save somebody else's life.
Amen. I love that.
And
What kind of support networks or resources did you find that are the most helpful to get you through this process? Is there what are
okay,
you
there
doing
there
right?
never was one. There never was any resources for me. Now, listen, in the last 3 years, I've contacted the tracking hotlines just to be blocked, ignored, pushed on. You know, unfortunately, I've learned that these organized criminals have infiltrated themselves and positioned themselves in the hospitals, in the trafficking organizations. I'm not saying that there aren't any good ones. I have yet to find any organization that has actually been helpful and not
Man,
blocked me.
wow. Well, there is one that I was so happy to hear about, and it was I think it's a Zoom Bible study you belong to or something. Was
Oh yeah, I met an apostle about a year ago, and I attend Bible studies each week, and it's very helpful to have someone coach you in your life that understands the evil in this
right.
world and understands the cults and the new lights and the all of these gang stalking type of situations. So yeah, I mean that's been helpful, but to actually have someone help me get back on my feet, without trying to hurt me or trying to take me out. That's never, it was
I
never
know.
there for me. So that's why I created, modern day slavery,
That is
USA.
awesome.
You
That
know, I
good
mean,
for you.
I get people every day messaging me telling me, they need help, their children's being trafficked and what can you do? I can tell them exactly what not to do. Unfortunately, I cannot, you know, say, well, okay, well, contact this organization or contact this one because I've been there and done that. Now, if you're being trafficked by a pimp, you're more than likely you will get help from the government. You will get help from the trafficking hotline. But if you're being trafficked by a huge organized ring, there is a huge financial gain for all of them. And they are not going to help you. And if they feel you are a threat and you're going to expose them, they are going to try to take you out. That's why, I'm very serious. If you ever are in my situation, and I praise God that you never are. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. But call multiple sources. That is your survival guide. Call multiple sources. If you can't stop, I wouldn't even go to the ER if I can't stop the bleeding. But if you can't stop the bleeding, you make sure you have somebody there that's watching over you. Keep the cameras rolling.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
wise. Wow. Are there any insights or advice that you can share with others to help protect them from falling into the same thing or to help protect their children? What should we avoid?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we can't avoid sending our children to school, putting them in daycare, having them around other people. And another thing, it's not just the white van with the candy. Hey, little girl, you want to come? Come with me. These people are stealing our children online. You know, they're rimming them online, and I know that a lot of my members on modern day slavery, they had disputes with their spouses and got the courts involved. And unfortunately, a lot of that can't be prevented. And a lot of these children are being trafficked through the government, through CPS. But the good thing is a lot of people are talking about it more.
Right. Right. That's great. And I love that. And the name of your group again is Modern Day Slavery?
Modern day slavery awareness in America, USA, and I'm on Facebook.
Okay, so if people don't have close friends or family that they can go to if something happens, who should they call? What should they do? Or is that just it? Have a close friend who can help you? What do you think?
Well, I mean, in my situation, had I contacted my family, I probably still would have ended up with that warrant hold on me because they were all working together on this.
Oh,
This was an inside job. In my situation, everybody's trafficking situation is different. You know, I mean, if I'm in a situation where I can't have at least somebody, paying attention, I'm just not. It's not going to happen. I'm staying one step ahead, and that's my goal for modern day slavery: is to help everyone stay ahead of this awful organized criminal ring and what they're doing to the children, especially the children. I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Now, I was torn away from my child. He was 9 years old when I was thrown into modern day slavery. And I've been fortunate the last year and a half. I've had a couple of reunions with him. I haven't been able to be fully back with him just because, I'm just because of my situation, physically and financially, it's just not feasible for me right now. But yeah, like I said, I can imagine my child being trafficked, and at the same time, he was torn away from his mother, just like I was torn away from my child.
Oh, you are so strong. I did want to say, and I think I said this to you once before, that your story's beautiful, and I love how it reminds me of it's actually the whole book of the Song of Solomon. And at the beginning, there's this Shulamite woman, and she's working in a field, and she has shame, and she says she's dark and lovely, which means she's ashamed that she has to work so hard at this job. She can't stay in and sew. She's work in the field. So she's probably very tan and she's rugged. Well, then she meets Jesus, and that is the one who changes everything. And she
Yeah,
gets to know him. And at the beginning of the story, she says to him that she's dark and lovely. But at the end of the story, as she gets to know him and she loves him and he loves her, and she rules and reigns with him over the same field. So it's a beautiful story from like rags to riches, but it really reminds me of yours from freedom to slavery and now to freedom, and how you're reaching out to other people. And I love that.
thank
So,
you.
thank you. Did you want to tell us one last thing that we should look out for, or that would help people stay away from slavery or getting captured?
Well, the one main thing that they use, the tool that they use is, earning your trust.
Ooh, that's good.
Um, Earning your trust, you just have to. I mean, unless you actually went through something like that, how are you to know? I
Right.
mean, how are you to know? I'm sorry, I can't. I can't. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to think of what I can say or do or.
No, that's perfect. That's the biggest trick of the devil, deceit. They tell you
Mhm.
one thing, they do something else. And there's no big way to know. I wish there were like red lights and flags saying, "Hey, this is a predator. This is a predator." But there's not. You just have to have good discernment because like you said, they earn your trust, and you don't know till it's too late that oops, I chose wrong. And that's sad. But I just love your story, and I love how you're like rule and reigning over the situation, how
Mhm.
you're reaching out to others. So God bless you, Suzanne. I think you're such an inspiration.
Thank you. I hopefully my testimony will save somebody's life. It's not meant to. I'm not telling my story to be believed or not believed. It's all about whether or not I can help someone through
Uh,
through my ordeal that I went through.
right? Is there a song or anything that just always is playing through your mind or is really encouraging you just to get through every day? Is there right now or no?
Not necessarily. I love all types of music.
Right.
One moment I'm listening to Motown, next minute, Filter. So it's kind of, I'm just all over the map with that. But it is very helpful. Music was always my drug of choice throughout my whole life.
That is awesome, because your whole countenance, even though you're struggling and you're still healing, and I can
Hmm.
tell in your voice that you're strong, but you
Yeah.
have this vibration about you that's just positive. It's good vibes. It's like when people meet you, you offer hope, and I love that. So I'm so glad I got to do this interview with you, and I'm certainly going to put your link up on my
Okay.
site. And thank you again, Suzanne. I hope we get to come together again and talk about a good story about someone who recently is rescued.
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, thank you for having me.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.